L.A. Marzulli is the author of 13 books and the director-producer of 30 films. He does 5 daily shows on his YouTube site that has over 200,000 followers. He is best known for his exhaustive research of the Nephilim, i.e. the giants of the Bible, and the UFO phenomenon. I'm going to eat this info up. Tina Griffin here, host of the Counterculture Mom Show. We're talking about Nephilim this week. Let's do it with CEO of Spiral of Life, L.A. Marzulli. L.A., how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Tina. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I wanted to meet you about 2 decades ago, so I'm kind of like just shock and awe right now seeing you face to face with me here on the program. I love what you research, and it's primarily because many other people are not talking about it, and the people that are saying this is a joke are people I would never trust. So for those reasons, and the amount of research you've done, I'm very excited to have you share today with our audience what you've been doing research on for how many decades. This is End Time Demonic Deception. You're blasting this through the roof to let people know what's going on. With that said, Genesis 3:15, can you read it for us and then tell us why this verse is so critical in this day and age?
Yeah, Genesis 3:15 is the gateway to the biblical prophetic narrative. And the backstory is Adam and Eve, unfortunately, have sided with the dragon. And because of that, their DNA has changed. Now, that's conjecture, but something's happened. Something radical has happened to them. They know that they're naked. They're hiding from the Lord. They've sided with the dragon. So the pre-incarnate Christ, the theophany, he's in the garden. Jesus is in the garden. And he says this to the dragon: your seed, your offspring, will be at enmity, at war with the seed, the offspring of the woman. The proto-evangelium, the seed of the woman, will crush the dragon's head, you'll bruise his heel. That literally is the entire biblical narrative. If we don't understand and have a proper exegesis interpretation of Genesis 3:15, when we do get 3 chapters later over to Genesis 6 with the Nephilim, with the Tower of Babel, Abraham and the kings, Sodom and Gomorrah, the conquest of Canaan. Finally, in Daniel chapter 2:43, where the angel says, Daniel, seal up the words in this book, and he tells you this: their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. Who the heck is they? Finally, in the book of Revelation, we get the son of perdition. It amazes me. It's right there, and hardly anybody talks about it. And the only reason why I talk about it, my older brother, Gary Stearman, unpacked this at a Nephilim Mounds conference, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. I had already written about Genesis 6. I knew Genesis 6, but I had been uncoupled from Genesis 3:15. I didn't understand that. And Gary opened that up. So I'm all over it. In fact, Tina, when I'm lecturing at conferences, and it's a primer night where I'm just setting the stage to go deep on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon, I start with Genesis 3:15, because if we're not all on the same page with Genesis 3:15, you can't go to step 2.
It's unreal. And Genesis 3:15 once again, and I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. Can you break down that verse one more time, nice and clear for us?
Yeah, I will. I love what the Amplified version, the Message says. I am declaring war between your offspring, pointing of a dragon, Satan, and the offspring of the woman. Jesus is declaring war between the offspring of the dragon, Satan, and the offspring of the woman. The proto-evangelion, the Messiah. And what's amazing, I mean, it's like a mind blower, because there's Jesus in the garden talking about himself, who's going to incarnate in the seed of the woman. And that's another 3-hour conversation that you can get into. Oh, that's the most profound mind blower thing in all of history, because Jesus becomes death. I'll skip to the punchline. The dragon doesn't understand this. Nobody gets it. How can you kill God? You can't kill God. And that's why when he goes to the cross, Mary and John, the conjecture on my part, Mary and John are at the foot of the cross, and they're going, okay, he's going to come down any minute now because he's God and you can't kill God. And the dragon's figuring, well, we just tortured him to within an inch of his life, but you can't kill God. He's going to come down. He becomes death. He's the firstborn of the dead. It's mind-boggling. The most cosmic event in all of history.
Okay, make sure in this interview, I love knowledge. I search for it. I've been searching for it since I was in diapers. Make sure that we talk about your conferences coming up, because when Karen was on the program for her doubleheader series and this week, watch all 4 episodes. People are going to be blown away with how amazing God puts all of these 4 episodes together. She briefly went over some of your conferences. I want you to go in detail, because I have to be at like every single one of them, and everybody watching this will also want to be there with what you just said in the first 5 minutes. All right, so another heavy hitter question here for you. Who are the Nephilim?
The Nephilim are the progeny of fallen angels and human women, creating a hybrid being which has no soul, in my opinion. It has no soul. Only God can give a soul. And this is why they are in a fixed state. They are irredeemable. And the disembodied spirits of a Nephilim become the demons that wander the earth, looking for something to inhabit.
That makes complete sense. Now, you have some dirt of a 9-foot thing that you found somewhere. Can you add more depth to what I just said?
This is a picture which I discovered in the Catalina Island archives and that's Ralph Glidden, who was 5'8", and in front of him is basically a 9-footer. How do we know that? I'll show you in just a second. We broke this down. We broke it down. We actually had 3 different people look at this and look at the picture. And knowing the height of Ralph Glidden at 5'8", all 3 researchers put it at 9 feet. So we published it. We went back. Richard Shaw, my former business partner, he passed away a number of years ago. This is the picture that's in the Catalina Island Museum when Rick and I go back.
Real.
Yeah, they've cropped the giant out of the picture. Rick and I are laughing like 2 school kids. We can't even believe it. And this is Rick holding up my book, which was then published. And you can see right there. There you go.
That's crazy. Okay, so I have 2 pressing questions. Why are they changing the images?
Because it hails back to the veracity and the validity of the biblical prophetic narrative.
Yep.
It tells us that there were giants that roamed the earth. These giants were not human, that there was a mixing of the seed, and that mixing of the seed is carrying on into modernity with the abduction phenomena.
Okay, I'm going to try to get you with a curveball question, but I know you're going to do just fine with this answer. This is the argument that people have. Well, there could have been Nephilim before the flood, but once the flood happened, there was Noah and his family on the ark. There's no way the Nephilim, I say Nephilim, you said Nephilim, so either way, there's no way the Nephilim could be here after the flood. What are your answers to that? Counter move, how the Nephilim returned after the flood. Okay, so instead of like a 1 minute, can you give us a 1 minute synopsis on the 10-inch book right there?
For the life of me, I sit there and my head spins because it's right there in the text. The Nephilim, remember, Moses is writing this thousands of years after the flood. He's writing the Torah thousands of years after the flood. Moses could have said this: the Nephilim were on the earth in those days. Period.
Right.
Done. But he doesn't do that.
No.
He says the Nephilim are on the earth in those days and also afterwards.
After. Yes.
I mean, and they do. And here, Tina, here's the deal. They have one shot and they almost succeed in the antediluvian world. They almost succeed in doing it. Only 8 people escape, which means that everybody else is in some way contaminated in some way. Now, whether their DNA is contaminated, whether they've given themselves over, but they're irredeemable. Only Noah and 8 people. And by the way, the flood legend is global. It's a global flood.
Yes.
That's why you find seashells up on Mount Everest, the highest peak in the whole
Absolutely. Deal. This is just mind blowing. This series is blowing my mind. I gotta do Nephilim again in about a month. Unreal. We're gonna be back to talk about ancient prophetic texts right after this.
Is there a Christian alternative to Instagram? Stick around and find out. For Christians scrolling through Instagram, some reels, photos, and videos can be less than edifying. A lot of Christians have grown frustrated with the lack of options for social media platforms that align with their beliefs. Others may just be tired of getting sucked into the algorithm and are looking for social media alternatives with other believers. The answer to your question is Tuvu. Tuvu is an awesome Christian alternative to Instagram where you can share photos, videos, Bible verses, and more with fellow believers. So what is Tuvu like? Let's take a look. Tuvu is more than social media. It's a community. The Tuvu community is full of like-minded individuals who share your values and beliefs. When you join Tuvu, you'll be able to connect with people who understand you and your faith. So what are you waiting for? Go to tuvu.com/Tina for your first 30 days free. That's tuvu.com/Tina for 30 days free.
Dr. Daniel Taylor is a specialist with 40 years of experience in examining bodies. In almost 90% of cases, he reports finding terrible parasitic infestation. These deadly parasites often live in the lungs, heart, liver, even the brain. Their colonies inhabit internal organs, and the larvae feed on the tissues of living people. That's why Sanus One created our one-of-a-kind wellness and bio-cleanse formula that attacks disease and parasites that can cripple your immune system and destroy your vital organs. And their toxic waste can paralyze or impede your entire system. Our Sanus One formulas are designed for preemptive wellness and can bring dramatic results even for post-parasitic infestation. Protect your health and feel good again with Sanus One, Wellness and True Health Formula. Visit us at sanus1.com, that's sanus1.com.
All right, LA, what do ancient prophetic texts tell us about the time in which we live?
Well, it tells us that there'll be a mingling of a seed. This is why Genesis 3:15 is absolutely crucial, because when you get to Daniel 2, verse 43, which we've already talked about, their seed will mingle with the seed of men, but they will not cleave to them. The word cleave, I got this from my friend Jim Williamson, is exactly the same word that we get back in Genesis. A man will leave his father and mother and cleave to his wife. Well, in the Daniel 2:43, there is no cleaving, there's no marriage. They are taking men and women and doing what they want. They get men, from the men they get the sperm, from the women are impregnated. That's why we published Karen Wilkins's book, Stolen Seed, Evil Harvest, because Karen was an abductee and she was involved in it and she lost 3 children to them. There was no marriage contract. They come to rob, kill, and destroy, and that's exactly what they do. And Genesis 3:15 is the gateway to the Bible, so if we understand that, when we get to Daniel 2:43, now we understand what he's talking about. Their seed will mingle with the seed of men. Well, who are they? It can't be men, because that's mingling of the seed. It's the seed of the dragon. This is why Genesis 3:15 is paramount in our understanding of the biblical prophetic narrative.
It makes complete sense. Why, you just mentioned a little bit about this, but anything else you want to expand on it? Why are people being taken and what happens to them? Can you go more in detail with that?
The late Chuck Missler used to say, Satan's outnumbered 2 to 1, he's breeding an army. And that's exactly what's going on. These are hybrid entities. They are in a fixed state. We've had people that have encountered them. They are, like I said, they're in a fixed state. They are obsessed with one thing, mating. Having sex. That's all they think about. That's it. That's it. And we've had too many people tell us exactly the same story, that they have encounters with these guys, these hybrids, and all they want to do is have sex and procreate.
Unreal. How long have you been doing research on this?
Well, I mean, when I was in the New Age at 15 and 16, I'll be 74 in December, so do the math. I've been studying this really all my life. And when I became a Christian, all of that shifted. And then there was a 10-year period where I didn't really research anything from 30 to 40. I was immersed in Bible studies. I became a worship leader. And then at 40 years old, the Lord just went, hey, remember all that stuff we were researching? Let's go back and look at that again. And here we are.
That is just amazing. Okay, here's what's wild. I had a different perspective of Roswell, but I can't wait to hear your dirt. I actually worked on the series of Roswell when I lived in LA for a decade, doing film and TV work. You have a lot more dirt about Roswell that I need to know about, so does America. Why was Roswell the beginning of decades of cover-up?
The powers that be, the higher-ups, went back to Orson Welles' War of the Worlds, and which caused panic. And what's interesting is the paper, the Roswell Daily, gets it right. That's the truth. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region.
Wow.
That was on July 8th. Then on July 9th, they come up with this. Ramey says excitement not justified. That's General Ramey. And so they put the kibosh on the whole thing, and they ran with the ridiculous, the absurd story of the weather balloon, which is like there's a quote in the July 8th paper from the Roswell Daily. This guy, Mr. Wilmot, is out with his wife, and they see this thing come in, and it streaks. It's going 400 or 500 miles an hour, like this, and it looks. Yeah, I have my props all.
I
all
want
set up
that.
here.
That looks like the UFO that I saw as a kid. We got to talk about our experiences, but go for it. Yes, he sees
Well,
it
this
streak.
is like the UFO, like I saw it as a kid.
Yes.
And he says it's like two dinner plates, put on top of each other, and this thing comes in at 400 or 500 miles an hour. Weather balloons don't travel at 400 or 500.
Absolutely not.
So who's lying? And I'll tell you who's lying. We did a deep dive, and this started the decades of cover up until 2017, when Commander David Fravor on Tucker Carlson's show, when asked, "What was this? Was not from this Earth. What was this tic tac shaped object you saw, Commander David Fravor? Whatever this was not from this Earth." And it's the same thing that crashed in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
Unreal. I've had Tom Hughes on the program, Billy Crone. Jan Markell believes that the rapture is going to be explained away by some alien abduction ordeal. That's the take that I had and still have today. So Roswell, what do you think actually really took place there?
I think it was, well, let me address something that, there's a saying I coined years ago. We go up, they come down. We go up, they show up. And when the rapture of a church happens, and I got this from Mondo Gonzalez and Jeff Van Hatten. So Elijah goes up. Elijah goes up, and Elisha sees him go up. Okay? When Jesus goes up, he ascends into where? The clouds. The clouds. When the two witnesses are resurrected from the dead, their bodies laying in the streets of Jerusalem, they go up where? Into the cloud. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, with the trump of God. But dead in Christ will rise first. Then we who are alive and remain will be caught up
in the air,
in the clouds, in the air, together with them.
Yes.
And meet the Lord in the air, so shall we ever be more with them. I mean, there it is. And my work on Fatima, and I didn't understand, Lord, why am I in Fatima making 2 films? I'm getting a little hot on the collar because I'm really passionate about this. We broke the story. We're the ones that have been flailing our arms for decades, calling this the Great Deception, and now all these other people are just piling on. But where were they? Where were their 13 and a half books? Where were they 30 films? I mean, it's like,
I know.
So,
they're regurgitating other info. Well, the good news with that is at least they're now sharing accurate information, but it has to make you want to pull your hair out when you said this 40, 50 years ago and people didn't believe you.
And I'm sidelined. One researcher, author, show host, whatever this person is, got a bad report that I was talking about bilocation, and so they won't have me on their show. I don't really care. That's fine. But bilocation is Jesus when he's walking on the water and he gets in the boat and instantly they were at their location. That's bilocation. Philip, when he's in the Ethiopian eunuch's chariot, right? And he's bilocated to another place, instantly he finds himself. That's bilocation. What do you think it's in the Bible. I'm not making this stuff up. So, don't blacklist me because someone says, oh, he was talking about bilocation. It's right in our Bible. So let me get to the punchline. Let me get to the punchline.
Absolutely.
In Fatima.
How do you really feel? How do you really feel?
Talk to my wife. So in Fatima, the sun was obscured. It's been raining all day. There's 70,000 people waiting for something to happen. All of a sudden, the clouds disappear. The sun's out. Everybody's going, wow, this is really cool. Then a cloud moves in front of a sun, and out of that cloud comes a dull silver disc. How do we know this? Because eyewitnesses standing in the field looked up. And remember, in 1917, there's nothing in our verbiage, nothing in our vernacular to go UFO, flying saucer. That verbiage doesn't come in until the mid-20th century. I looked up and saw a dull silver disc.
Wow.
So here's what I think. Here's what I think. We go up, they come down. Here's the rapture of a church. The entire planet looks at this. This is the coming great deception. We go up into the clouds, and out of that cloud come mile-wide craft. And it happens in many cities. And I heard this, Tina, 50 years ago, 50, when I was immersed in the New Age. I heard that when our space brothers came back, okay, that they would take
Yes.
people like me, those nasty fundamentalists, right? We're not ready for the paradigm shift in consciousness. They're going to take us to another place where we can evolve. I heard this 50 years ago. 50 years ago.
I don't
That's
go back that far because I'm not quite 50 years old, but I've heard that several times over the years. It makes complete sense to me. It also just drives it home that this is absolute truth today, because when you line up end time prophecy, the headline news, what they're doing with
this is
AI,
it.
transhumanism, this is it. The stage is set. How do we get your 30 films and 13 and a half books? And we're going to know more right after this. Parents with kids at home, can I ask you something heavy but very important? Deuteronomy says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, to commit wholeheartedly to these commands and repeat them again and again to your children. But what if something happens to you and your spouse and you are no longer around to repeat them to your kids? EpicWill.com is here to help ensure your children are raised by guardians who will honor your legacy and raise them up the way you would want them to be raised. Trust me, you do not want a court deciding who will raise your children. Secure your family today by naming a guardian in your last will and testament, as well as the rest of your early estate building needs, like your advance directive, financial power of attorney, and more at EpicWill.com. We are never guaranteed tomorrow. Start the process now at EpicWill.com and use promo code TINA for 20% off. That's EpicWill.com. Protect your legacy and your children's future.
Have you ever wanted to start a charity or ministry? Launching a nonprofit can be time-consuming, expensive, and overwhelming. If you have a vision and mission, but don't know where to start or how to raise donations, Capstone Legacy Foundation is your solution. Their ministry charity project allows you to receive tax-free donations without the expense and hassle of forming your own 501c3, and in less than 48 hours. This ministry partnership fund is exactly how Counterculture Ministries got its start, and we grew quickly. Capstone Legacy Foundation handles all your legal and accounting paperwork, allowing you time to develop the ministry and message God gave you. Call Capstone today at 610-688-8890 or check out capstonelegacy.org for more information. And tell them Tina sent you. Partner with Capstone Legacy Foundation to transform our culture for Christ and get your nonprofit started today.
All right, LA, I had an absolute blast. I've got to have you on again. That's a no-brainer. Everybody out there, you have to watch LA's 2 new films about Roswell. You're bringing back memories for me here, Hollywood Hills, 20 years ago. Your website, it's loaded with content. You're probably going to have your website crash after people watch this episode, but that's okay. A good problem to have. We can go to your website at lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net. What can we find? Where should we go? What should we dig into?
Well, it's also lamarzulli.com. So either way gets you there. You can download by going to streaming.lamarzulli.net, and you can just watch on streaming. Or if you're antiquated, you can buy the DVDs. So either way.
I mean, come on. I'm almost like getting sidetracked by wanting to watch your stuff right now as we're still taping. It's hilarious. UFOs are real. They're not going to go away. And here's what's nuts. There's this UFO recording website that if you see one, you report in. And I didn't even know they had one. I looked it up about 2 years ago doing the episode about my personal experience and what I saw. And literally the actual saucer that night was recorded in this database. I think it's ufodatabase.com or something. Counterculturemom.com. If you want to donate, click that pink donate button, top of the page. Give, we're a tax write-off. It's either give to LA and myself or give to the government. That's a no-brainer, people. LA, keep up the excellent work. You rock. I got to meet you in person. Our ministry of over 24 committed grandparents, parents, and yes, even teens exists because of your prayers and donations. If you are not currently a partner with us and would love to help us reach more people through the production of this show or through live speaking events, you can give through our website, counterculturemom.com, by clicking on the pink donate button at the top of the page. Your donations will greatly help us reach more and more people via radio, TV, podcasting, and all the rest. It also helps us cover the cost of reaching thousands of students at schools and conferences throughout America. We received this email 20 years ago from a student when I spoke at her school assembly. Hi, Tina. My name is Kim, and you came to my school to speak. I just wanted to tell you how much you inspired me. I've always wanted to be someone to make a difference in people's lives in the way that isn't cliche or by the book. Lately, I've been sort of questioning what I want to do with my life, but you reminded me today. And we want to continue doing that as the Counterculture Ministries team. Once again, if you'd like to donate and help us reach more of America's future leaders, just go to counterculturemom.com and click on that pink donate button. Thank you for helping us reach more people in this critical hour.